The quantum distress beacon arrived at 2:37 hours, ship time, a moment that would be etched into human historical records forever. Captain Maya Chen was not supposed to be on the bridge at that hour. Regulation dictated a strict sleep rotation for the command crew of the interstellar rescue and exploration vessel Resilience, but something had pulled her from her quarters. A feeling, an intuition that defied every logical explanation. The signal first manifested as a ghost in the quantum communication arrays, a whisper so dense with information that it momentarily crashed 3 of the ship's primary processing systems. Lieutenant Aisha Khan, the night shift communications officer, watched in growing horror as her screens erupted into a kaleidoscope of impossible data streams. "Captain," she called, her voice trembling slightly, "you need to see this." Maya Chen crossed the bridge in 3 long strides. Her reputation preceded her, a commander who had rebuilt her career from the ashes of a controversial first contact mission that had nearly ended her military career. Where other commanders saw obstacles, she saw puzzles waiting to be solved. The signal was unlike anything in human or alien archives. It wasn't just a transmission. It was a quantum-compressed packet of information so dense that conventional decryption methods were useless. Traditional communication algorithms shattered against its complexity, like glass against a quantum hammer. "Run a full spectral analysis," Chen commanded, "and get Dr. Rodriguez up here now." Within minutes, Dr. Alejandro Rodriguez burst onto the bridge. Once the most promising quantum theorist in the Terran Exploration Corps, he had been relegated to fringe research after his controversial papers suggested communication methods that defied current scientific understanding. His wild theories had cost him his academic position, but never his passion. Rodriguez's eyes blazed with an intensity that made the bridge crew uncomfortable. He began interfacing directly with the ship's systems, his neural implants creating a direct connection that allowed him to process information at speeds beyond human comprehension. "It's a distress signal," he muttered, "but not like anything we've ever seen. This isn't just a call for help. It's a cry that's been traveling through quantum space for centuries." The initial analysis revealed something extraordinary. The signal originated from a region of space long considered a galactic graveyard, the remnants of the Lyra Compact, a civilization believed to have been completely destroyed during the Great Stellar Purge 300 years earlier. Every previous expedition had found nothing but stellar debris and quantum radiation. But this signal was different. Compressed within its quantum structure were fragments of data that suggested something impossible. A civilization not dead, but suspended, trapped in a state of quantum flux that existed simultaneously across multiple potential realities. "If this is real," Rodriguez said, his voice barely above a whisper, "we're looking at the greatest rescue mission in human history." Captain Chen understood the implications immediately. This wasn't just a potential first contact scenario. This was a chance to save an entire civilization that had been lost to time and space. The bridge fell silent. Each crew member understood the magnitude of what they were witnessing. Humanity had always been defined by its ability to answer impossible calls, to push beyond known boundaries, and challenge the very limits of scientific understanding. Lieutenant Khan's instruments began to produce additional readings. The signal was degrading. Whoever was sending this message was running out of time. "Prepare quantum communication protocols," Chen ordered, "and wake the entire research team. We're going to need every brilliant mind we have." Rodriguez looked up, a dangerous glint in his eyes. "This will require technologies we haven't even theorized yet. We're talking about potentially folding reality itself to create a rescue pathway." As if in response, the quantum signal pulsed, a desperate heartbeat across the vast emptiness of space. It was a call that demanded to be answered, a challenge that would test the very limits of human capability. The Resilience had been waiting its entire existence for a mission like this, and humanity was about to show the universe what it meant to never leave anyone behind. The emergency assembly was anything but orderly. Dr. Alejandro Rodriguez stood at the head of the conference room, his neural implants still flickering with residual quantum data from the mysterious signal. Around him sat a collection of humanity's most brilliant and most controversial minds. Kai Liu sat in the corner, his cybernetic eye scanning the room with military precision. Once the youngest commander in the Terran Deep Space Exploration Fleet, he had been demoted after a diplomatic incident that nearly sparked an interstellar war. His crime: choosing the survival of his crew over politically correct protocols. Elena Vasquez, the team's xenobiological engineer, looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. Her latest research on quantum biological adaptation had been roundly rejected by every major scientific institution. Now, she saw a chance for redemption. "The signal is unlike anything in our databases," Rodriguez began, bringing up holographic representations of the quantum transmission. "It's not just a message. It's a compressed reality. Entire civilizational memories trapped in quantum flux." Kai Liu interrupted, his cybernetic eye zooming in on the holographic display. "Cut the theoretical nonsense, Rodriguez. Can we rescue them or not?" The tension in the room was palpable. These were not traditional heroes. They were outcasts, brilliant minds who had been pushed to the margins of human exploration. The Resilience was their last chance, a ship cobbled together from experimental technologies and second-chance personnel. Elena leaned forward, her fingers dancing across a holographic interface. "The quantum structure suggests a civilization trapped not just in space, but in a multi-dimensional state of suspended animation. We're talking about rescuing a population that exists simultaneously across multiple potential realities." Rodriguez nodded. "Precisely. And that's why we're the only team that can do this. Traditional rescue protocols would destroy them. We need something unconventional." Captain Maya Chen watched the interaction carefully. She understood that this team's greatest strength was also its greatest weakness, their inability to conform. Where other crews would follow standard protocols, this group would challenge every assumption. "We have approximately 72 hours before the quantum signal completely degrades," she announced. The room fell silent. Kai Liu's cybernetic eye began running complex calculations, projecting potential rescue scenarios that flickered and shifted like living algorithms. "Our primary challenge is creating a quantum bridge stable enough to extract an entire civilization without causing quantum decoherence." Elena's research came to life. She pulled up her previous work on quantum biological preservation, the very research that had gotten her kicked out of the scientific community. "My adaptive nano-intervention systems might be our only hope, but we'll need to modify them considerably." The team began to work. Holographic displays filled the room, showing impossible geometric patterns that represented potential rescue methodologies. Rodriguez's quantum theories merged with Liu's strategic approach and Elena's biological insights. But beneath the scientific collaboration, personal tensions simmered. Each of them had something to prove. Each saw this mission as their ultimate vindication. "We're not just talking about a rescue," Rodriguez said quietly. "We're talking about rewriting the fundamental understanding of quantum existence." Kai Liu scoffed. "Pretty words. I care about bringing people home alive." Elena watched the interaction, her mind already racing through potential technological solutions. She understood something the others didn't, that this rescue would require more than scientific brilliance. It would require a fundamental reimagining of what was possible. Captain Chen recognized the dynamics immediately. These were not traditional team members. They were brilliant individualists who would either save an entire civilization or spectacularly destroy themselves in the attempt. As the first computations began to take shape, something extraordinary started to emerge. The quantum signal was not just a distress call. It was a complex, living message, a civilization's final hope compressed into pure information. They had 72 hours to do the impossible. And for this crew, impossible was just another word for a challenge waiting to be conquered. The laboratory deck of the Resilience looked like a nightmare constructed by mad scientists. Quantum entanglement drives sprawled across experimental platforms, their crystalline structures pulsing with an otherworldly light. Adaptive nano-intervention systems hung in suspended animation, each microsystem a potential key to rescuing an entire civilization. Dr. Rodriguez worked with a manic intensity that bordered on possession. Neural interfaces connected directly to experimental quantum computers, his consciousness dancing across computational matrices that would have driven a normal mind to complete breakdown. "We're not just developing a rescue mechanism," he muttered, more to himself than to the team around him. "We're creating a technology that doesn't exist in any known scientific framework." Their first prototype was a spectacular failure. The quantum resonance drive activated with a sound that was more feeling than noise, a vibration that seemed to tear at the very fabric of reality. For 3.7 seconds, the entire ship existed in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. Crew members reported experiencing fragments of alternate lives, potential futures bleeding into their current consciousness. Then everything went catastrophically wrong. A miniature quantum singularity formed at the heart of the experimental chamber. It began to consume matter around it, creating a localized warping of space-time that threatened to destroy the entire ship. Emergency containment protocols engaged, but even they seemed almost primitive against the raw quantum chaos. Kailu's cybernetic systems went into overdrive, calculating potential escape vectors and structural integrity scenarios. "We're losing structural cohesion in sections 3 through 7, he shouted, his human and mechanical parts working in perfect synchronization. Elena Vasquez was already working on a solution. Her adaptive nanosystems began to reconfigure themselves, creating a living computational matrix that could potentially stabilize the quantum anomaly. It was like watching liquid metal think, each nanite a tiny brain contributing to a collective intelligence. Captain Chen watched from the command bridge, understanding that this was more than a technological challenge. This was a fundamental test of human adaptability. Quantum bridge instability at 87%. The ship's AI reported in a calm voice that felt deeply inappropriate given the circumstances. Potential reality breach imminent. Rodriguez laughed, a sound that was equal parts triumph and madness. "We're close. We're so close." The quantum singularity began to collapse, but not in any predictable manner. It folded in on itself, creating computational pathways that defied everything known about physics. The experimental chamber looked like a living painting, reality itself becoming fluid and malleable. "Data compression achieved," Elena announced, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "We've captured quantum state information that might allow us to create a rescue pathway." Kailu's strategic mind was already 3 steps ahead. "We can't reproduce this accidentally." Whatever happened here was a combination of precise calculations and pure human unpredictability. As the quantum singularity finally dissipated, something remarkable remained. Not just data, but a potential pathway. A glimpse into a rescue methodology that no alien civilization would have ever conceived. The first prototype had failed spectacularly, but in that failure, they had discovered something profound. Humans didn't just solve problems. They reimagined the very nature of what was possible. "Prepare the next iteration," Rodriguez said, his eyes blazing with an almost religious intensity. "We're going to rescue an entire civilization, and we're going to do it in a way that will rewrite the laws of quantum mechanics." The technological gauntlet had been thrown down, and humanity was just getting started. The quantum research was progressing faster than anyone could have predicted, but with every breakthrough came a shadow of doubt. Captain Maya Chen noticed it first. Subtle inconsistencies in the research logs. Experimental data that didn't quite align. Quantum calculations that seemed to have been subtly manipulated. Someone on the Resilience was sabotaging their mission. The ship's internal security systems were state-of-the-art, but this was different. The manipulation was happening at a quantum information level. Someone was feeding false data directly into their computational matrices. Dr. Rodriguez was the first suspect. His historical reputation for controversial research made him an obvious target. But Chen knew him too well. His obsession was pure. He lived and breathed the possibility of this rescue. Kailu's cybernetic systems began running continuous counterintelligence protocols. His military training kicked in, transforming the research vessel into a potential combat zone. Every crew member became a potential threat. The quantum data streams are being subtly redirected, Liu announced during an emergency briefing. His cybernetic eye projected holographic representations of the data manipulation. Someone is creating micro-variations in our rescue calculations that would render the entire mission impossible. Elena Vasquez looked uncomfortable. Her adaptive nanosystems could detect quantum-level information tampering, but whoever was doing this was extraordinarily skilled. The crew became a pressure cooker of suspicion. Each researcher began to view their colleagues with growing paranoia. The mission to rescue an entire civilization was now secondary to the immediate threat of internal destruction. Captain Chen implemented strict communication protocols. All data transfers would be quantum encrypted with multiple verification layers. But the saboteur was always one step ahead. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Lieutenant Aisha Khan, the communications officer who had first detected the original distress signal, discovered microscopic quantum Trojan algorithms hidden within their research databases. These aren't just random manipulations, she reported. This is deliberate. Someone wants us to fail, but they want us to fail in a very specific way. The implications were terrifying. This wasn't just simple sabotage. This was a sophisticated attempt to prevent humanity from developing quantum rescue technologies that could potentially revolutionize interstellar exploration. Kai Lu's investigation pointed to multiple potential sources: rival exploration corporations, alien civilizations threatened by humanity's technological progress, even factions within human government who feared the potential implications of successful quantum rescue technologies. Dr. Rodriguez became increasingly paranoid. His quantum research was now not just a scientific endeavor, but a potential battleground against unknown enemies. "They don't want us to succeed," he told Captain Chen during a private meeting. "This rescue is about more than saving the Lyra Compact. It's about proving that humanity can push beyond known technological limitations." The ship's atmosphere became electric with tension. Every communication was suspect. Every research breakthrough could be a potential trap. Captain Chen knew they were racing against multiple clocks now. The quantum signal was degrading. An unknown saboteur was working to destroy their mission, and the very fate of an entire civilization hung in the balance. "We're going to complete this mission," she told her core team. No matter what. The hunt for the saboteur had begun. And on the Resilience, no one was above suspicion. The breakthrough came at the edge of impossible. Dr. Rodriguez's quantum bridge prototype required something no conventional scientific protocol would ever approve: human consciousness as a quantum probe. Not just data, not just computational algorithms, but living human minds would need to be transformed into quantum transmission vectors. Volunteers stepped forward immediately. The first was Elena Vasquez. Her adaptive nanobiological systems made her the most likely candidate to survive quantum translation. During the preparatory briefings, she explained the process with a clinical detachment that masked her own terror. "We're essentially going to transform human consciousness into a living quantum algorithm," she told the assembled crew. "Our minds will become the bridge between realities." Kailu's cybernetic systems ran endless simulations. Each projection showed a 99.7% chance of complete neural destruction. The remaining 0.3% represented something between a miracle and a nightmare. Captain Chen understood the stakes. This wasn't just a rescue mission. This was humanity pushing against the very boundaries of known existence. The quantum chamber looked nothing like a traditional scientific laboratory. Crystalline structures pulsed with impossible geometries. Adaptive nano-intervention systems created living computational matrices that seemed to breathe with an alien intelligence. Rodriguez's final calculations were a work of mad genius. By using human consciousness as a quantum transmission vector, they could potentially create a bridge that would allow them to extract the trapped Lyra Compact civilization. The first volunteer would essentially cease to exist as a traditional human consciousness. Elena stepped into the quantum chamber. Her body began to shimmer, molecular structures becoming fluid and indistinct. Nanotechnology transformed her physical form into a living computational matrix. Quantum breach initiating, the ship's AI announced in a voice that seemed to exist in multiple emotional states simultaneously. For 3.6 seconds, Elena Vasquez existed as pure information. Her consciousness spread across multiple potential realities, touching the compressed quantum signal of the Lyra compact. She became a living bridge between civilizations. Kai Lu watched the computational matrices with his cybernetic eye, tracking every microscopic change. His military training warred with pure scientific fascination. This was beyond anything humanity had ever attempted. The quantum breach expanded. Reality itself seemed to become malleable, folding and unfolding in ways that defied conventional understanding. Sections of the Resilience existed in multiple states simultaneously. Crew members experienced fragments of alternate lives, potential futures bleeding into their current consciousness. Rodriguez's calculations were perfect, or perfectly mad. The line between genius and insanity had never been so thin. When Elena's consciousness began to reconstitute, she was changed. Not damaged, not destroyed, but fundamentally transformed. "I've made contact," she whispered, her voice carrying quantum resonances that made the surrounding technology vibrate. "The Lyra compact. They're alive, but not like we understand life." Fragments of an entire civilization's memories flooded the ship's computational systems, histories, technologies, entire cultural experiences compressed into quantum information. Captain Chen realized they had done more than attempt a rescue. They had created a method of communication that would revolutionize human understanding of consciousness itself. The quantum breach was successful, but the true mission was just beginning. Humanity had just proven that no civilization was ever truly lost, not if humans decided to find them. The moment the first Lyran ships began to emerge from quantum suspension, reality itself seemed to go mad. Sections of the Resilience existed in multiple states simultaneously. Crew members experienced fragments of alternate lives, potential futures bleeding into their current consciousness. The ship's computational systems struggled to maintain coherence, quantum information cascading through holographic displays like living, breathing data. The saboteur chose this moment to reveal themselves. Dr. Marcus Revick, a deep-cover operative from the Interstellar Preservation Council, had been embedded in the crew for years. His mission was simple: prevent humanity from developing quantum rescue technologies that could destabilize the current galactic power structures. "You don't understand the implications," Revick shouted as security systems moved to contain him. This technology could rewrite everything. Kai Lu's cybernetic systems were the first to detect the full extent of the threat. Revick wasn't just a simple spy. He was a quantum-augmented agent designed to prevent exactly this type of technological breakthrough. Captain Chen understood immediately. This was more than a rescue mission. This was a fundamental challenge to how interstellar civilizations understood technological progress. The Lyran ships began to materialize, not as solid vessels, but as quantum probability waves. Each ship existed in multiple potential states, their molecular structures dancing between different dimensional realities. They were living proof of a civilization that had survived by existing simultaneously across multiple potential universes. Elena Vasquez, transformed by her quantum bridge experience, began to interface directly with the emerging Lyran vessels. Her consciousness, now fundamentally altered, could communicate in ways no traditional human technology could comprehend. "They'd been waiting," she whispered, her voice carrying quantum resonances that made the ship's systems vibrate. Not just for rescue, for a civilization that could understand them. Dr. Rodriguez's quantum calculations were proving to be more than theoretical. The rescue was happening, but in a way that defied every known scientific protocol. The Lyrans weren't just being extracted, they were being fundamentally transformed in the process. Revick's final act of sabotage was catastrophic. He triggered a quantum cascade effect that threatened to tear apart the very fabric of space-time around the Resilience. The ship's systems began to fragment, reality itself becoming a malleable, unpredictable substance. Kai Lu's strategic mind went into overdrive. His cybernetic systems began to create quantum stabilization algorithms in real time, using the emerging Lyran technologies to counteract Revik's destruction. "We're creating a new form of technological communication," Rodriguez realized, watching the quantum interactions. "This isn't just a rescue. This is first contact on a level no one has ever attempted." The Lyran vessels began to merge with the Resilience's systems, not through traditional technological interfaces, but through quantum information transfer. Entire civilizational memories began to flow through the ship's computational matrices. Captain Chen watched as humanity's greatest rescue mission transformed into something far more profound. They weren't just saving the civilization. They were rewriting the fundamental understanding of existence itself. Revik was subdued, but the damage was done. The quantum cascade was spreading, creating potential realities that existed simultaneously. "We're beyond rescue now," Alina said, her transformed consciousness spreading across the ship's systems. "We're creating something entirely new." The universe watched, and humanity answered a call that would change everything forever. The news spread faster than light itself. Humanity had not just rescued a civilization. They had demonstrated a technological capability that rewrote the fundamental understanding of interstellar rescue and communication. The Lyra Compact emerged not as a defeated people, but as transformed beings. Their quantum-suspended civilization carried technological and cultural knowledge that would revolutionize every known galactic society, and they chose humanity as their primary allies. Diplomatic channels erupted into chaos. The Interstellar Preservation Council, the very organization that had tried to prevent the rescue, found themselves completely marginalized. Their attempts to control technological progress had been utterly destroyed by a single human mission. Other subjugated civilizations began to take notice. The Lyrans shared their rescue story across quantum communication networks, creating a cascading effect of hope among species that had long been forgotten or oppressed. Captain Maya Chen became an unexpected diplomatic icon. Her crew, a collection of brilliant outcasts, represented a new model of exploration, not conquest, not controlled scientific progress, but pure, unbridled human potential. Dr. Rodriguez's quantum communication technologies began to be studied by civilizations across multiple star systems. His theories, once considered madness, were now the foundation of a new understanding of interstellar communication. Kai Lu's strategic analyses revealed something extraordinary. The quantum rescue technologies could be adapted to communicate with, and potentially rescue, other trapped or isolated civilizations. What had seemed like a single mission was becoming a fundamental shift in galactic dynamics. Alina Vasquez, forever changed by her quantum bridge experience, became a living bridge between human and Lyran technologies. Her transformed consciousness could interface with computational systems in ways no one had previously imagined. The first liberated client races began to emerge. Species that had been subjugated for generations suddenly found themselves with access to technologies and historical knowledge that had been deliberately suppressed. "We're not just rescuing civilizations," Rodriguez explained during a galactic conference. "We're creating a new model of interstellar cooperation." The Lyrans brought more than just their survival. They'd brought compressed historical and technological knowledge that had been preserved during their quantum suspension. Entire libraries of lost scientific understanding became available. Kai Lu's military strategic models were completely transformed. The concept of interstellar conflict was being rewritten. How do you wage war against a civilization that can exist in multiple realities simultaneously? Captain Chen understood the deeper implications. This was more than a technological breakthrough. This was a fundamental reimagining of what was possible when a species refused to accept limitations. The Interstellar Preservation Council attempted to block the spread of these technologies, but it was too late. The quantum communication networks were already spreading, carried by the very civilizations they had tried to control. Humanity had not just answered a call. They had created an entirely new method of galactic communication and rescue. Other species began to look at humans differently. No longer were they seen as a young, aggressive species. They were now recognized as the civilization that could do the impossible. The galactic uprising had begun, and it started with a single distress signal that no one else would have heard. 5 years after the rescue of the Lyra Compact, the galaxy looked fundamentally different. The Resilience had become more than a ship. It was a symbol of humanity's potential, a living testament to what could be achieved when traditional limitations were ignored. Captain Maya Chen stood on its bridge, watching as quantum communication networks spread across multiple star systems. Dr. Alejandro Rodriguez's quantum technologies had transformed interstellar exploration. Rescue missions that once took decades now happened in moments. Civilizations thought lost forever were being rediscovered, their compressed histories unfolding across quantum communication matrices. Kai Liu had transformed from a military strategist to the primary architect of a new form of interstellar diplomacy. His cybernetic systems could now interface directly with quantum communication networks, creating diplomatic strategies that considered multiple potential realities simultaneously. Elena Vasquez, no longer entirely human, no longer entirely something else, had become the primary interface between rescued civilizations. Her transformed consciousness could communicate in ways that transcended traditional linguistic and technological barriers. The Lyra Compact had become humanity's closest allies. Their quantum-preserved knowledge had accelerated human technological development by centuries. Technologies that would have taken generations to develop were now emerging in months. Dr. Marcus Revick, the original saboteur, sat in a quantum-locked containment facility. His attempts to prevent humanity's technological growth had not just failed, they had accelerated the very processes he sought to stop. Diplomatic conferences now included representatives from civilizations that had been thought extinct. Species rescued from quantum suspension brought historical knowledge that rewrote understanding of galactic history. The Interstellar Preservation Council had been completely dismantled. Their attempts to control technological progress have been definitively proven futile. A new collaborative model of interstellar exploration had emerged, one based on rescue, communication, and mutual understanding. Captain Chen reflected on the mission that had started everything. A single quantum distress signal that no one else would have heard. A call that humanity had chosen to answer when every other civilization would have ignored it. The rescue of the Lyra Compact was no longer just a mission. It was the moment humanity proved that no civilization was truly lost. That communication could transcend technological limitations. That hope was the most powerful force in the universe. Quantum communication networks now connected civilizations across impossible distances. The very concept of isolation had been destroyed. Species that had been alone for millennia were now part of a vast, interconnected galactic community. Rodriguez's technologies continued to evolve. Each breakthrough seemed to push against the very boundaries of what was possible. Quantum rescue missions became routine. Civilizations that had been suspended, forgotten, or deliberately hidden were being discovered and integrated. Kai Liu's strategic model suggested that this was just the beginning. The technologies developed during the Lyra Compact rescue were creating possibilities that no one had previously imagined. Elena Vasquez looked out across the quantum communication networks. Her transformed consciousness saw potential realities that traditional human perception could never comprehend. She understood something profound. Humanity's greatest strength was its ability to hear calls that others would ignore. On the bridge of the Resilience, Captain Chen smiled. They had done more than rescue a civilization. They had transformed the fundamental understanding of what was possible. Humanity had answered the call, and the universe would never be the same.